Hey everyone, Amer here again with another Mission Impossible episode review. This time I'm doing Season 2, Episode 19 of the original series, which is called The Condemned. There's no instructions here. This is one of those personal missions. We start in a Spanish prison, where Jim is visiting his childhood friend, David Webster, who is scheduled for execution even though he claims he's innocent, and never even met the man who he is accused of having killed or killing, whose name is George Corley. David is sure that a woman named Luisa Rojas is framing him, but he can't figure out how or even why. So we get Jim basically assembling the A-team in a sense. There's no Cinnamon this time for whatever reason. Jim tells them that, these guys are not under any obligation to get involved. It's, it's his business. It's not IMF business. They politely shut him up. The first step is creating a fake wall for David to hide behind and some other Barney gadgetry. Jim heads to Corley's house. Barney visits Louisa as a phone repairman so he can put a bug in her set, while priests, Rollin and Willie, head to the prison to minister to Webster and set up the wall so that he can hide, giving him a hearing aid device so that he can be signaled when the time comes. Jim finds a set of loose bricks in a wall at Corley's house and finds a box with some clippings from Greek newspapers. As he exits the house, he is slugged by someone and brought back in. The prison guards find Webster's cell empty, and the two guys who accosted Jim hear the news on the radio. Not sure who turned the radio on, but okay. The two guys want what was in the box, indicating that it was a crown of some sort. Jim tells them that he's a PI named Travis, and he was just trying to help Webster figure out what happened. The older man, named Constantine, says that Williams killed Corley for the crown, which Corley stole from a Greek museum and is worth $10 million. Rollin makes a mask of David and confronts Louisa about why she sent him to Corley's house to set him up, and then denied knowing him at all. Rollin, as David tells her he knows about the crown, and, when police sirens are heard, thanks to Willie, says he'll be back to find out who took it. Louisa predictably makes a frantic phone call to someone saying she's frightened. Man tells her to come over so they can talk, and she does, into a seemingly abandoned warehouse building where Willie and Jim follow her. Louisa tells the man that they need to leave the country, but he says he's not ready yet. In case you haven't figured it out, this man is actually George Corley. And realizing that Louisa is a major risk because of being so scared, he shoots her. He hears the footsteps of Jim coming up the stairs and sees him ready to shoot. Willie yells out a warning, spooking George, who takes a major fall off of the rickety steps and railing. Jim finds Louisa dying. She says, George, why did you do it? I loved you. And he didn't understand why he shot her. Willie finds that the man's ID showed his name as Arthur Warner, but he was wearing brown contacts to cover his blue eyes. So he must have been Corley. Willie finds the crown. Barney makes a protective box for it, along with a remote-controlled car gearbox. Jim visits the prison and tells the captain that he's an insurance agent investigating Corley's theft of the crown and his subsequent murder by Webster. He tells the captain to put out a word that there is a $1 million reward for the crown, which should ferret Webster out. The captain agrees, but tells his lieutenant to tail Jim and watch him. Travis returns to his hotel room to find Constantine and his assistant there. Constantine confronts Jim about not telling him that he was an insurance agent, with the police listening in to the bugged room, and they tell Jim that they're not going to let him out of his sight for a while. Out of their sight, I should say. While Barney continues work on a car, Rollin dons a Corley mask for how he looked before his accident. The captain finds Louisa's body at Corley's hideout and a broken set of Corley's glasses, planted by the IMF. Rollin as Corley calls Jim, and hearing his voice shocks Constantine, and they arrange an out-of-the-way meeting place at his blue car. Constantine reveals that he was double-crossed by Corley, and he intends to make George pay. Constantine and his man find the car, and so does the captain, watching from above. Rollin as Corley comes up behind the two jewel hunters and knocks them out, allowing the cops to nab them while Rollin drives the car away through a set of curved roads, exiting the car in an out-of-sight place and setting up a dummy in the driver's seat. Barney uses the remote control to get the car moving as soon as the police find it again, simulating erratic driving before the car goes right off a cliff and bursts into flames. The cops are able to find the crown in its protective box. They are sure now that Corley is dead, and Jim points out that Webster's obviously innocent and should be released, and the captain agrees. Mission accomplished. I'm going to give this episode a grade of B+. There are some very, very neat things here as one of the better personal missions. Good. It's a solid plan. There's some improvisation along the way, but the way that it's executed is really, really effective. The IMF and Jim specifically are kind of able to shift the plan as they discover pieces of the puzzle, and I think that they do it in a pretty effective way. The gadgetry in this episode is top-notch. The false wall that they develop at the beginning of the episode to allow Webster to hide, nice, really, really nice visually and procedurally. I love that. Also, the car chase at the end. The car chase itself is okay, I suppose, but that really, to me, is not what is the highlight of that part. I was way more interested in Barney making a remote control for a manual transmission, a stick shift car. Like, that's freaking impressive, right? A button for the clutch and a little gearbox and everything. I'm like, that is very, very cool. I really, really, really like that. Very, very nice. It's an okay finish to the episode. It's effective. It accomplishes what it needs to achieve. The only thing that I did not like about this is that there is quite a bit of padding. I shouldn't say quite a bit, but there's a significant amount of padding. It can be a bit of a slow mover. When a lot of time is spent watching Rollin making masks. Quite a bit of time is spent on Barney actually preparing, the remote gearbox for the car. More than I would like. So that is a bit of a shot against it. The ending, as I said, was okay, but it lacks a little something. I think one of the problems is that this episode suffers a little bit because of the way it was redone in the revival series. It's done way more effectively. If you haven't seen that, I advise you definitely please watch it because there's a big twist in that one compared to this one. I actually prefer the one from the revival. Without spoiling it for anyone. In the revival, this episode is remade, and the twist makes it a lot more personal for the IMF. Okay, I'll leave it at that. This is a lot more of kind of a matter-of-fact presentation. In that, we've got a couple of guys who are just looking for the crown, and then there's these cops who are just trying to do their job. They've got a guy who's accused of murder. He's been found guilty, I guess, and he's supposed to be executed. And this whole thing of a $10 million crown being involved, and these cops are just like, oh well, I guess that's nice and everything, but we've just kind of got a job to do, and that kind of doesn't change their calculus in their minds. That's kind of weird. I think that the whole premise and the plot, the way that it's done in the revival series, is much, much better. We'll get to that eventually after we go through all of these. So I guess the grade for this episode suffers, but only because of something that happens after it, which is kind of unfair. But I really couldn't not put this in the A or even the A- category. I think I'm pretty much set with the B+. And that's that. Thank you all for watching. As always, I ask you to like this video. I ask you to subscribe to my channel and leave your comments about what you thought about this episode and other episodes as well. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.